morning. You're listening to Dr. Heather Williamson, the Leadership Doc, host of Talking Leadership, and I have a guest in the studio today by the name of John Korusek.
That's right.
Awesome, thank you very much. And he is with the Virginia Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and his current role is a workforce development specialist, which is, I think, your whole agency, I think, is a fabulous agency for the state. I really do. And so I wanted to have you on the show really because you offer resources for businesses that I don't think most businesses are aware of.
That is true.
That is true, I know. So if you don't mind, John, tell a little bit about yourself and what DARS, abbreviation is all about.
All right, so like she said, I'm John Korusek. I'm a workforce development specialist. I'm also known as a placement counselor. So basically, once folks come into our office, we get them into placement and we find them work. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I do. And I work for the DARS Greater Richmond office off of Maywell. We have several offices throughout the state.
Mm-hmm. And so the agency helps any business within the whole state of Virginia.
The state of Virginia. And DARS, in case anybody out there doesn't know, it's the Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services.
Right.
That's what it stands for.
And so what does that entail?
So our mission is basically to improve employment. That's our, and then quality of life, security, independence of older Virginians with disabilities, and their families. Mm-hmm. So that's our mission, our charge to Virginia. And we offer disability services. We have assistive technology. There's brain injury services, independent living, also vocational assistance and employment services. So individuals with disabilities, basically what they do, they'll call one of our local offices. Mm-hmm. They'll get sent a pack, or they can pick up the paperwork, and then we'll deem them eligible for services. And then they'll meet with a vocational counselor. After they meet with the vocational counselor, they'll meet with placement. And then I'll work together with our business development manager, like Wes Seaton, to get them placed in this general area.
Mm-hmm. So what disabilities should businesses be thinking about that could help them that you all would be a great resource for?
So any people with disabilities, so you can have seen or unseen disabilities. You could have seen disabilities like blindness or hearing impairment. You could have unseen disabilities like PTSD, mm-hmm. or people dealing with anxiety issues. And we also can foster a class through Windmills where we go and we train businesses to kind of have a better, I wouldn't say better, but basically a good understanding of what disabilities are, mm-hmm. and how they can work in the workforce area. How can they work for the business? Mm-hmm. And sometimes people have certain biases, and we all have those biases, right, that we don't and are not aware of, but we can find out what those biases are and work through them through that Windmills training. There's like 12 different places or 12 different things that we go through, sessions, and we usually do one or two with mm-hmm. the business to kind of feel better looking at people with disabilities. You start off with you can't do.
Right. You're thinking, I'm not going to hire somebody with a disability because they're not going to be able to perform at the level that I want. Yeah. That's what people would be thinking.
Yeah, so it's all can't. And then going through that Windmills training and working with us at Business Services at DARS, you find that you can. Yeah. And that people can. Mm-hmm. And so when you really start embracing that, it becomes more of ability than disability. Mm-hmm. And that's where we like to put our focus. So that's how we kind of get them in and get them acclimated. And then, like I said, we have offices all throughout the state. In this area, Greater Richmond, Chesterfield, Fredericksburg, and Petersburg, mm-hmm. where we have offices.
So what's the process really? If somebody was thinking about, I've got some job openings, what are the skill sets that most people that you're placing in with businesses?
So we run the whole gambit. So we have people from, in pre-ETs, which is basically through all the schools. We're in every single school. Mm-hmm. So we start in the schools. So we have kids probably 16 or younger, and then we go all the way up. So we have people with GEDs, we have people with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees. Mm-hmm. A lot of people with disabilities are looking for part-time work, mm-hmm. Because that's kind of, in a supplement to their income for disability insurance, right, through Social Security admin. So they're looking for jobs are part-time, but not all of our people are looking for part-time. They're looking for full-time jobs too. So we look at different industries like the service industry, hospitality. We look at food service. We look at security. We look at a lot of different jobs. It just depends on the individual. It depends on the client and kind of what their goal is with their vocational counsel, what they've decided their goal was going to be, what training they've had. So everybody's a little bit different. But we work with companies all throughout Virginia trying to get them, acclimated. And then we offer all kinds of different incentives as well.
And you also help with those individuals who have disabilities gain the skills, train, and then credentialing. So what's the credentialing about?
So they can get credentials through the Community College Workforce Alliance or other training organizations. So like, for example, if somebody wants to drive trucks, they can get a CDL. If somebody wants to get into the medical field, they can get a CNA license. If they wanted to get into food service, we can get their ServSafe or SafeServe. I always say it backwards, whichever way. I always have that backwards. But they can get any kind of thing that you can think of as a credential, they can do. And in part of the state, we have Woodrow Wilson, which is Wilson Workforce Center now, and they train on all kinds of industries. And you can get, drone, you can get warehouse, you can work on automobiles. They have cars in there, and they're doing oil changes and everything. So we send people up to Woodrow Wilson Workforce Center to get those trainings as well. In this area, we're like one of 6 or 8 in the United States that it's right here in our backyard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I know we have lots of manufacturing around here, especially the growth, Legos just coming in, which we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So,
and, a lot of other companies around the Chester area, a lot of manufacturing down there.
Yeah, so warehouse is a big one for us too, getting folks into those jobs, forklift jobs. We can get them into those certifications. We can get them into Amazon, other places like that. So anybody that's looking to do work, warehouse, office work, we have jobs in office work. So anything that you can think of, any business that you have out there and you're looking to hire folks with disabilities, we can get more disabilities, people with disabilities into your organization.
It's a great resource for if you're not even thinking about it. So what is DAR's Business Services financial incentive to employers?
So we have several financial incentives for employers, and one is work experience. So sometimes, we get folks that have been trained and they need a little bit of work experience. So we want to get that person into your company, and DARS has the insurance where they can get them into your company and everything is safe. They'll get that work experience that they can put on the resume. Sometimes that work experience is paid. So if somebody has gotten out of high school or gotten out of college, they could get 8 to 12 weeks of paid work experience. And so we also do on-the-job training as well, where they'll get funding through on-the-job training. And that is a 50% or decrease for the employer. So say if they put somebody in at $12 an hour, we're giving them $6 of that $12 for 8 or 12 weeks of that time frame, and they won't have to pay that. And then also
which is a huge savings for businesses. Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's totally huge.
Yeah.
Yes, it's big. And workforce opportunity tax credit. A lot of people through the automatic tracking system, when you go to fill out stuff, if you're answering questions about have you been incarcerated or have you been unemployed, have you been on TANF, and the other one is disabilities. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing that for a company, but smaller companies don't have that. So we go in and tell them about that incentive through the Virginia Employment Commission, VEC, and they get that tax break too.
And some of these you were talking about earlier, paid or not paid, but like internships.
Internships, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apprenticeships. And we also have a new grant called the Pathways Grant, where we're working closer with DOLE, the Department of Labor and Industry. And so we get folks into those kind of apprenticeships. So for example, we had one person at Greater Richmond office that wanted to do eye care. So we got them in with 4 eyes. So they're in the apprenticeship, and they're getting paid to do the job while learning the job, and then they'll have the job when they're done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we work with them as well doing apprenticeships.
And so the federal bonding program, what was that?
So
What's that about?
federal bonding is a program where you can work with the Department of Corrections, and they have $5,000 that they'll give in a bond that it's free to employers, and it covers eligible employees for 6 months that might have been incarcerated. And so what that letter does, a lot of guys will get that letter, guys and girls will get that letter, and they'll go and they'll say, you have to hire me, I have this letter now. And it's not particularly like that. What it is it's an incentive. So if you hire me, you'll have $5,000 bond for 6 months in case anything happens. You'll be covered, taking a risk on me and hiring me as being incarcerated or former incarcerated reentry to the workforce.
So we talked about, what is DARS and what that process is, and business services.
Business services. So basically, it starts off with placement counselors at each one of our offices, and that's what I am. Placement counselors will basically work with individuals that we get from the vocational counselors, and we will compile resumes or redo resumes. Sometimes we want to get them through that automatic tracking through the computers, so we have to make sure all their stuff's on the resume. We assist with applying, so we can assist with applying for a position, assessing limitations and accommodations in employment. And then what I also do as a placement counselor is I send job leads out to all my folks in the area, and also job fairs. So when they're looking for jobs and say you're a potential employer, we can get your on the list or your job fair on the list and get that out to our folks that you're hiring.
So to put business owners at ease, what are the strengths of those with those people with individuals with disabilities? What are the strengths that they're bringing to the organization?
So when you hire someone with a disability, you're bringing that sense of, this is my sports team. So your employment agency or your business is their sports team, and they're wearing your colors. So they got the uniform on. They're ready to work. They are going to be on time. They're gonna be in uniform. They're sometimes going to need some additional training. Sometimes we work with what's called an employment service organization, a job coach, to get them acclimated to the job and get them into the job so they can see what the job's all about, and they can help that person communicate and do all the things. Sometimes they don't need that person. Sometimes they're in there learning the job, and if they get frustrated, they'll call the placement counselor, or the business might call the business development manager, like Wes, to see how they can further assist them, or what needs to happen for this particular individual. So sometimes, there's a little bit of difficulty, and we can come in and act as a partner in that whole transaction piece to better ensure your client, so or your potential employee. So basically, you get that kind of extra people on your caseload where you can assist them in finding the job and keeping the job, that retention piece of it.
And they want to work.
Yeah.
They just want to have the opportunity to be able to, for their own self-image and their self-worth, I'm thinking, that give them the opportunity to go out and do a job, bring in some money, and really be a representative of the company and to do well for them.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too, as far as finding folks the jobs and them wanting to work and wanting to get into a field. And when you see them get that job and have that sense of accomplishment, it's such an amazing thing. I had this one gentleman, he had work shirts, and he would push his chest out, puff his chest out every time I went to go visit him because he had gotten that job, and he was so proud that he had his name on his t-shirt or on his work shirt, and he was so proud of getting that position. And it was such a neat thing when you see that sense of accomplishment, not only for that individual, but we have a lot of champions as far as businesses are concerned too, and they champion this and they help other businesses understand what we're doing. So that's a big thing too, to see and witness people change their minds.
I know. So how do people get in touch with you if they are interested in hiring somebody with a disability?
So they could they could email myself. They could also email Wes. My email is John, John, .Korusek, Korusek, at DARS.Virginia spelled out .gov. And Wes's email is William .SEATON at DARS.Virginia spelled out .gov. And he is the business development manager, so he oversees our region, and he basically goes up to Fredericksburg, to Williamsburg, to
Northern
Petersburg.
Neck.
Yeah, he's all over the place, but basically the greater Richmond area is where his focus is. So you can find him or find me. Then you'll get into one of our DARS facilities, get the paperwork, get in with the counselor, and we can get you on through their training and placement and all that good stuff.
And they're probably not going to quit on you.
No, there are some, like I said, with that work experience piece. Sometimes with most people, I want to get them into their next career. However, they might be on that stopgap where they're getting a little bit of work experience for the next thing, so they can kind of spruce up that resume and get that resume rolling for their next opportunity. So sometimes there is a stopgap, but most of the time we want to get them to that next job because we see their success, they see their success, and then we can move on to another client.
Yeah.
And get more people in there.
I think for those businesses that are so discouraged because they can't find people to come work for them,
Yes.
this is a great avenue for those businesses as an alternative that they hadn't thought about.
Yeah, and so they can come to talk to us. We can get them on our list. We can start sending out their job leads. We can start talking to them about some of these incentives. Wes and myself act as a one point of contact for workforce development services. So we might be offering DARS services. We might be offering one of our partner agency services. And we're kind of behind the scenes doing all that stuff. And some people don't even really know that they're getting other services besides DARS, but that's just part of what we do for that one point of contact. So you won't have 12 people knocking down your door.
Exactly.
Because businesses are busy, and we know that they're trying to hire people so they can do what they need to do in their business world.
So what are some additional ways DARS Business Services can assist businesses to hire and retain employees with disabilities?
So there is also, like I said, I talked a little bit about the Pathways Grant. So the Pathways Grant is a new funding source. And earlier we were talking about funding, and you were talking about how some of it goes unclaimed.
Right.
And so some of these that we get go unclaimed. So basically what it does is connects Virginians with disabilities to education, training, industry recognized credentials needed for quality in high demand jobs. Each quarter, what we do is DARS, we highlight a particular career pathway. And so they can get on that career cafe to learn more about those opportunities.
What would that look like?
So for example, like we were talking about warehousing. So they'll do one with warehousing, the next month they'll do food service, the next month they'll do healthcare.
Okay.
They'll focus on a different service, and they'll have a business, they'll have a training person, they'll have the clients all on like a virtual session where they can all interact with one another to do that. And then, like I said, working closer with Department of Labor and Industry to obtain those federal apprenticeships with local employers. And then for the state, if you are a state employer, there's a new alternative hiring process that people can do. That alternative hiring process, they contact DARS for a certificate of disability, and if they see the alternative hiring process pop up on a state application, they insert that certificate of disability that they receive from DARS. And some people think it's something they put on their wall. It's not that. It's not a certificate like that. It's a certificate that says DARS has recognized this person has a disability. It doesn't say what the disability is.
Yeah.
It just gives them that. And so we have found more state agencies now are contacting us to get involved in what we're doing because of this alternative hiring process for our consumers.
Well, and you were talking about the industries such as the service and healthcare and food service, things like that. Well, those are the businesses that are struggling to get people to work for them.
Yes. And so all of those businesses can contact us, get on our list. We can go through the people at our particular spot. If you're in another location, we'll get you in touch with that person in a different location, a different office, to get in touch with them and their business service folks. But like I said, Wes covers this major area here, but we have other business development managers that cover the state. So all around the state of Virginia, if you have a business and you're looking to get some folks hired,
Mm-hmm.
DARS can get people in there with disabilities and tick off some of those that you
Mm-hmm.
need, and you've been looking for people. So they're looking for part-time and full-time work with different backgrounds and different abilities.
Mm-hmm. Anybody do radio?
Well,
Sound?
we have had some recently that were looking for music-related jobs, and I'm always upfront and honest when I talk to somebody. I said, I don't think there's any music-related jobs out there, but I did and was able to find them. I'm not sure if it was 5 or 10 jobs over the past 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
but I was able to send them some job opportunities. I don't know if it was radio by chance. If there's any of those jobs, maybe I could do one of those. But they probably wouldn't want to lose me over DARS doing the placement with them. So, but definitely, I mean, any kind of industry that you're thinking about, and people are the businesses are held by that federal standard that they have to hire people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
They have to hire people that have been incarcerated. They have to hire people that are veterans. They have to hire regular folks.
Mm-hmm.
So we can help you meet all of those needs. So you're basically checking the box and saying, hey, I did what was required for the federal government. I hired people with disabilities. I hired people with backgrounds. I hired people that, maybe have been unemployed or whatnot, basically looking for newer jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to tick all those boxes that people are looking for. And like I said, if you're looking for people that are 18, you're looking for people that are 16, you're looking for people that are 21 or over, we
Mm-hmm.
deal with all of the population, and each one of our clients are different.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, we were talking earlier about veterans.
Yes.
And so those who have come back from war and have a disability.
Yeah, and so you have other agencies that can help,
Mm-hmm.
like the Department of Veteran Affairs can
Mm-hmm.
help. They also can go to their local VA, and our VA here is really good. But we also have services for people that have disabilities too, that are coming back with an unseen or seen disability,
Mm-hmm.
where we can assist them in those jobs. And then there's other federal workforce agencies, there's city workforce agencies. So we partner up with all of those where we can provide services. If you're looking for a place to stay, you don't have a home,
Mm-hmm.
we have services for that we can point you towards that. If you're looking for transportation, we have some things that we can help with that. Clothing, all kinds of different things. Sometimes people need a bicycle. We've been able to
get
in the
to work
past
if
get the
they're not
bicycle.
driving.
Yeah. So if it has to do with work-related stuff, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes our agency might not be able to, but other agencies that we work with might be able to provide that for an individual.
Mm-hmm. So I would love for you to share a story, a success story.
A success story of
Uh-huh.
somebody getting
Mm-hmm.
work.
Somebody who with a disability, and you can kind of share what that disability is, so, the listeners can relate, and how they were successful.
Well, I'll tell you a story about this one guy that I know. He wanted to get a job at Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to work at Walmart stocking shelves. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't get him a job at Walmart, but I did get him a job at a grocery store, and it was right near his house, which his mom was really thankful for, because she was the one providing transportation for him. So she would provide him transportation back and forth, and he was working this job. And at the time, I was a job coach for one of our employment service organizations, and I had to go back in because his boss came back from vacation and said he's not doing the job correctly. I was like, oh man. So we went back in, we started a new plan, got him straight on the job, and so he was doing well. This was the same gentleman I was telling you about the shirt.
Uh-huh.
He went and got another job working on trucks, and then he got work gear, and I would still go and check on him,
Mm-hmm.
and he would all the time show me his name, and I thought that was so awesome because he was so proud to be working. Here was a kid right out of high school, hardly had any experience. We got him a job making, I think, like $5 or $6 more than what I made when I was, in high school.
Yeah.
And then he got his second job, which almost doubled his income.
Mm-hmm.
And that, helped him, but it also helped his family.
Right.
Because it was his mom and his dad and him. And so he was able to contribute. And he was so happy.
Yeah, which makes him feel good that, there's a lot of expenses with disabilities, and being able to help cover some of those costs is huge.
Yeah, and we have so many success stories and people that are getting employment in different fields. It's just amazing the type of work and the benefit that you can see when you see that person get that job and get that newness of the new job and how they feel and what it does for them. And
Mm-hmm.
it just and sometimes when they didn't think so, mom and dad didn't think so, maybe the teachers didn't think so, and they get out there in the community, they get this job, and you're a part of that. And you know that old adage, it takes a community. It does, and DARS is part of that community that can help folks with disabilities find those positions and work with employers like-minded and those that aren't. We want to work with all employers and hopefully get you into this championship employer status too. So that's a good thing as well.
And the championship employer status is what?
It's just we do champions every year, and so employers can get an award for working with those with disabilities.
I think I've been to those luncheons.
Yes. So that's a really neat thing too. So that's on the other side. That's businesses coming in and saying, "Look what I did over this year working with folks with disabilities. Look how many people we got employed with disabilities." And other, they're normally working with our partner agencies too, so they've gotten partner agency jobs for their clients too. So it's a success all the way around.
So how do they get in touch with you again?
You can contact me. It's John, JOHN, .KORUSEK at DARS.virginiaspelledout.gov.
John, I am so excited that you are here and able to share your experience working with those with disabilities, helping them get placed in jobs so they're contributing members of society basically, and they're helping businesses where businesses were struggling getting the job done. It's just a huge resource and an amazing resource for those businesses out in the greater Richmond area and across the state. So for those of you that are listening, if you are struggling getting people to apply for jobs, bringing people on board, no one is really interested, or they're just checking the box so they can get unemployment, that they're actually searching when they're really not. Check out the Department of, which is DARS, the Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and see what they have to offer, where you can get a great employee with the assistance from DARS to make sure that that person is going to succeed and that you are as well. So thank you, John, for being here.
Thank you so much.
So appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for listening to Talking Leadership with me, Dr. Heather Williamson, your leadership doc on ESPN 106.1 FM. So if you want to improve your leadership skills, check out my website at www.transformationgroup.llc.com and check out the leadership executive coaching services that we offer. And until next time, have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
In this video, these leadership tips and strategies are sponsored by my company, Transformation Group. And in my company, I work with leaders just like you through individual leadership coaching sessions. And in these 1-hour sessions, we talk about strategies to help you develop the skills to overcome performance challenges. Whether that involves learning how to hold your employees accountable, delegating and empowering employees more effectively, spending time on tasks that really matter to your business, or communicating expectations consistently, or even better, lowering your stress. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, then there's an email address below in the description box of this video. So send me an email and we can then discuss if I'm the right fit for you. Until the next video, have a great day.